Hey guys, Sorker, welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney 2. Let's carry on where we left off. It's trial time. Our first trial over here in Great Britain. The Old Bailey. Defendant's antechamber at 9:23 a.m. on the 22nd of February. The Old Bailey. This place always makes me feel strange. I seem to get chills down my spine and break out in a nervous sweat all at the same time. That's every trial, Ryunosuke. Well, I didn't think I'd be back here so soon. That's my line. Oh, good morning. Good morning, Miss Natsume. It was only 2 days ago that I was declared not guilty here. Yes, we somehow managed to prove he didn't stab Miss Green in the back. But now this! Another morning, another murder, and here I am again in this hellhole. Can't keep coming to court. Well, it didn't stop when you got back to Japan either. Thankfully, you were just a witness then. I'm beginning to think he's right. It really does seem as though he's cursed. Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid I have bad news. Oh, what's up? What's the bad news? Don't say bad news in front of Mr. Natsume. Mr. Natsume, good morning. Yes, morning. Not good. Particularly bad, actually. So, here we are again. Yes, again. I wouldn't be smiling if I were you. Well, shit. Judicial Assistant Miss Mikatoba Esquire S. What's the bad news? Oh dear, you heard, did you? If you come in shouting at the top of your voice, people can't help hearing what you say. Oh, I am sorry. You've done nothing wrong, Miss Susato. Just a crime of passion. Now, what is it? Well, it seems that the prosecution in today's trial will be led by Lord Baroque van Zieks. That's not bad news at all. I love the guy. God, he's my favorite prosecutor. Van Zieks? Again? Oh, no. Oh, no. And his theme's so cool too. Oh, God. Perfect. I've been waiting for this day. The so-called Reaper of the Bailey. The most legendary prosecutor in the land. In the trial 2 days ago, he pursued Soseki-san and I relentlessly. Of course, by the skin of our teeth. We managed to pull through, but still. Perhaps Mr. Natsume's acquittal in the last trial wasn't the end of the matter. After all, its final destination for Soseki Natsume, the Reaper comes! Yes, I know what you're thinking. The legend of the Reaper that says, nothing can save a person in the dock when Lord Van Zieks is the prosecutor. Oh no! Please, stop shaking, you're making me tremble with fear. That even if that person is found not guilty, the accused will meet a mysterious end one way or another. We saw that with Mr. McGilded. He burned alive in the omnibus, and we've experienced it firsthand. Yep. A man we successfully defended met the most terrifying end after his acquittal. Right here in the Old Bailey. I mean, if it's any reprieve, he was guilty. Oh, do I have to put up with those ice-cold eyes boring into my soul again? Cursed by evil spirits and now by the Reaper. Pair of petrifying perils, potentially. I don't think there's anything potential about it. It's actually happening. Well, if it's potentially, at least you appear to have hope, Mr. Natsume. Well, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Yes? I'm innocent. You have to believe me. You more than anyone now. I believe you. Don't worry. I'll be your steadfast ally every step of the way in this battle. I promise. And this promises to be a hard battle, I fear. Oh boy. Well, the trial is scheduled to begin shortly. We should move into the courtroom. Before we do that, though, I should probably review all the evidence we've gathered. I haven't had a proper look at any of it. We've got the second-hand book receipt, a receipt for some books that Mr. Natsume purchased at a second-hand bookshop. It was submitted as evidence in the trial the other day. Right, these were the books that were found in Mr. Shamspeare's flat. Picture of Monsieur Lecoq, meal for Gabrielle, and Canterbury Yearnings. Alright, we've got the nearby street map. This was also submitted as evidence in the trial the other day, detailing where everything is and whatnot as well. Bar of soap, a cheap bar of soap that was discovered just outside Mr. Shamspeare's window. It's one of two that were found there. Yeah, covered up by bricks, no less. Oh, there's an indentation. Oh. What is it, Mr. Naruhodo? This bar of soap. When we first found it, I could have sworn there was some sort of round disc in this depression just here. A reddish one. Yes, you're right. I remember it too. But now the depression is completely empty. Where could the disc have gone? Wait, what? When did that happen? Lucky I examined it, the little reddish medallion from the center has mysteriously vanished. Interesting. Nothing on this side. Cool, cool. Torn off end of envelope. A ripped piece of an envelope that was found in Mr. Champs's room. The rest of the envelope could not be located. Anything on it? Not particularly. Good look at the tear. Whoever opened this envelope didn't bother with a letter opener or scissors, did they? Yes, whoever opened it was clearly someone with an unrefined temperament. And judging from the angle of the rip here, the person in question must have been right-handed. Miss Susato, I think perhaps someone's been reading too much of the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Are you about to do a dance of deduction? You can never read too much of it, Mr. Naruhodo. Never. I think you can. It's pretty easy to fall down the Sherlock Holmes rabbit hole. Pair of teacups. The teacups used by Mr. Shamspear and Mr. Natsume. The one with the green line around the rim was Mr. Natsume's. Okay. They've seen better days, it seems. Let's take a look at Mr. Natsume's cup. This is the teacup from which Mr. Natsume was drinking. Yes, unlike the other one, the inside of the cup is completely clean. I suppose he must have drunk the contents before the tea had a chance to leave a mark. I always gulp it down, too. Sorry, Mr. Naruhodo? Gulp what down exactly? Well, if you just sip it little by little, it goes cold. Clearly, I shall have to instruct you in the proper way to take tea. This reminds me of when I had to do a job interview at one point, and they asked me, hey, if you want to make some coffee, feel free to do so. So I did, and I wasn't sure if I was allowed to take the coffee into the interview room, so I sculled it in the kitchen right then and there. It was hot, and when I arrived in that interview room, she was like, I thought you were going to make coffee, and I was like, yeah, I drank it all, and somehow I still got the job, so they must have determined I was a very efficient boy, and one that didn't waste time drinking coffee. The teacups used by Mr. Shamspear and Mr. Natsume, there's no tea ring on the inside of Mr. Natsume's cup. Okay, I doubt he gulped it down. He does seem like a refined gentleman, despite his mannerisms so far. Over here, Mr. Shamspear's cup. This must be the cup that Mr. Shamspear was drinking from then. It's stained on the inside. Tea does that, I'm afraid. Even green tea. Oh, really? Never noticed before, because I gulped my tea down. You've never noticed? Well, I never leave it in the cup long enough to leave a mark. I like to gulp it down. Drink tea while it's hot. That's the Japanese way, isn't it? Oh dear, so many people seem to have a wrong idea about our culture. And most of them are Japanese. Well, if they're all Japanese and that's what they think about the culture, maybe we need to reevaluate it. Alright, so that's the two insides of the cups. Anything underneath? No, nothing on the handles either. Cool. Alright, well that's everything. Glad we're up to date with our evidence. Let's go. Oh yes, I forgot to say. I'm afraid he won't be able to make it. Mr. Sholmes, I mean. You know what? It's probably for the best. Yeah, that's probably for the best. Oh. If he were here, I might be tempted to rely on his help. That's why. Not because I want to sock him in the face. And that could be seen as weakness. If Lord Van Zieks were to notice, he'd prey on it mercilessly. At least, that's my gut feeling. Mr. Naruhodo. You're right. Yes, you're so right. Oh, well said. Welcome, student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Well said. I don't think it's good for Mr. Natsume's heart either if Sholmes were to make an appearance. I swear on the sword at my side and on the spirit of Kazuma that it harbors. I'll show him what a Japanese lawyer can do. I'll set you free. With honor. Oh, yes. We got your back, Mr. Natsume. Don't you worry. It's a given that you're going to be released. Given what we know from Trial 1, 9:40 a.m., the Old Bailey courtroom. Odd time to start. Our jury. I saw Lady first and Fair Play. Bruce Fair Play. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is ready. The defense is ready, my lord. Readiness for the trial, my learned Nipponese friend, is not what the defense needs. What you need is readiness for your inevitable defeat. Bold words coming from a bold prosecutor. It's not just in my imagination. It's really there. Lord Van Zieks has such an animosity towards us Japanese for some reason. It was some time ago now that he first became known as the Reap of the Bailey, I believe. These past few years he hasn't appeared in court at all. And he came back just for us during our first time. Yet now he's back at the courtroom, though for some reason. Only when I'm defending. This Reaper, with his curious disdain for us Japanese, is a prosecutor shrouded in mystery. Well, he blames us for something. Still, this isn't the time to be pondering that. I have to concentrate on Seki-san's trial. Furthermore, I now call upon the 6 ladies and gentlemen of the jury. You have been chosen at random to represent the will of the people in this trial. Are you ready to fulfill your duty? Absolutely. I had a feeling this larrikin wasn't innocent before.
I must say that I feel especially ruthless on days when my hat refuses to sit right.
Oh, well, I rather like how you wear your hat. I think the ruthless look is very fetching, actually. I need to be somewhere at 10 o'clock. I have a very important meeting. Let's make this quick. I couldn't agree more. I need to take home 5 bob tonight, or the missus will go through the roof. Oh, you're the violent guy who was like a boxer, no? And you've been like every trial. I swear, is there no one else in this city? Oh, may the Lord show us all the light here and lead his flock to a righteous verdict.
The British jury system is so very different to our own, isn't it? It's quite extraordinary to think that the power of the judgment is in the hands of 6 members of the public, the same ones over and over. And that judge can only pass sentence when all jurors are in agreement about the defendant's guilt.
6 citizens of London, chosen at random. Or at least, that's the idea. So I'm questioning that theory. The prosecution would draw attention to the fact that the accused was on trial here but 2 days ago. Accordingly, where possible, the same jurors have been asked to return for duty today. Ah, I see. Okay, well that makes sense then, why we've got so many familiar faces again. Very well, let us commence the trial. Won't they be biased, though? Even more so because they've already deemed him not guilty. They're gonna feel like, oh, maybe we got it wrong. Let's declare him guilty this time for sure. Lord Van Zieks, your opening statement, please. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is not the intent of the prosecution to cast doubt over your past decision, but you fucked up majorly. However, the innocent verdict afforded to this eccentric Nipponese before has had dire consequences. Did the accused repent for his wrongdoing in that affair? Far from it. Instead, he used his freedom to perpetrate a most blood-curdling crime. Namely, that of the attempted murder of his neighboring lodger, an innocent Englishman. To explain the circumstances of the crime, the prosecution calls its first witnesses to the stand. Oh, the cape is off. The detective responsible for investigating the scene, and the accused himself. Starting off strong. Okay. Witnesses, your names and occupations, please. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector, Scotland Yard's Homicide Division.
Oh, me? Sasaki Natsume from the Empire of Japan. My government ordered me to come here as a student to study your language and culture.
Mr. Natsume.
Yes, my lord, sir.
I'm quite sure I'm not mistaken that you swore an oath never to set foot in my courtroom again. Yeah, well, it was certainly not voluntarily. I remember it as if it were yesterday. The day before, in fact, my lord, but close enough.
Oh, believe me, this is the last place I want to be.
Inspector, let's hear from you first. Explain the case for the court. Right you are, sir. Alright, let's hear it from the man himself. The incident occurred at the Garrett household where the defendant has lodgings. In the ground floor room of the victim, Mr. William Shakespeare. Not to be confused with William Shakespeare, the defendant has already admitted to visiting the victim on the night in question. Mr. Shakespeare collapsed in his room as a result of the poisoning by strychnine? It was found the following morning when the landlord, suspecting something was wrong, broke down the door. This means, I presume, that the door to the victim's room was locked at the time of the incident, or does he just like to make an entrance? Correct, my lord. It was locked from the inside, making entry to or exit from the room impossible. Although the victim, Mr. Shamspare, lives to tell tale, he very nearly didn't. The man was halfway to heaven when we first found him. I was the first officer on the scene, my lord. And I have a photographic print here that I took at the time to show how it looked. Okay. Yes, a chilling scene indeed. The man looks very much deceased. Or fast asleep, which is actually what was really going on. That's right, everyone present believed that's exactly what it was. Very well, I shall accept this photographic print as evidence for the court. Crime scene photograph has been entered in the court record. A photographic print of the scene taken by police upon their arrival. The victim can be seen unconscious at the table, having been poisoned. Now then, Mr. Natsume. Yes. As the defendant, do you have anything to say at this juncture?
They're haunted. Haunted by evil spirits.
Good gracious, what haunted?
My lodgings! There's been a whole series of strange happenings in my lodgings. The tenant before me died in mysterious circumstances. A woman was stabbed by no one on the street outside. My neighbor was poisoned. And me, what about me? I've nearly been killed countless times.
Killed, Mr. Natsume? How?
Even on that fateful night it happened. When I returned from Mr. Shamspeare's room, I lit my gas stove and climbed into bed, but before long, the stove went out, and somebody tried to kill me.
Whoa, you left this detail out? What the hell happened? You must always extinguish all fires before retiring for the night, Mr. Natsume. Oh, did he hallucinate or something? Did the gas get to him?
But it's so cold. My runny nose would freeze. The point is, I didn't poison my neighbor, if you got that from the fact that I went to bed and had the gas on all night. Oh, why am I being accused of this? Why is my existence so cursed?
Enough. Thank you, witnesses. I believe I have a reasonably clear picture of events. If I could raise one more point, my lord. One more conclusive point. Conclusive? Go on, I do like conclusive. Fortunately, the victim, Mr. Shamspare, has regained consciousness after his ordeal, unlike Miss Green last time. And he has named the true culprit. Yeah, that's pretty conclusive. The poison consumed by the victim was administered in a cup of tea that he drank on the night in question. Tea, my lord, that was brought to the victim's room by the accused. The accused? Good grief! Order! Yes, that's the crux of this whole case. If Soseki-san is innocent, then why? Why has the victim accused him? Well, Mr. Natsume, what have you to say to this accusation?
That evening, yes, I did take some freshly brewed tea with me when I visited Mr. Shamspeare's room. As a gift. The public water pump outside always freezes at night, so I brought bottled water, especially to make it. And this is the result. Never will I touch tea again, never.
The public pump was frozen, you say?
That's not information we've heard before.
Why am I learning so many new things now? Soseki, please. Help me help you help yourself. That'll do, thank you. Now, according to our laws, the defense must have the opportunity to cross-examine witnesses at least once, otherwise this wouldn't really be a game. Therefore, I call upon these witnesses now for a formal testimony. I presume the prosecution has no objection. You better not, because like I said, they have to cross-examine at least once, and this is their chance. None whatsoever, my lord. Good. Then you will give your account of events on the night in question to the court now.
Yes, my lord.
Go on. Let's hear it. So what the hell happened? If he brought the tea and the tea was poison, someone must have intervened somehow when Soseki wasn't looking. The catastrophic night.
It was around 9 o'clock that evening when I visited my neighbor, and I took some tea with me as a gift. We had a heated delitory debate over a nice hot drink. after which I went back to my room around 11. Oh, my tea was completely harmless. He couldn't have locked the door behind me otherwise, could he?
Strychnine takes some time to have an effect on the body. People don't kill over immediately after taking it. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. The argument still stands.
So you brought tea, and not only that, but your teacup was immaculate.
Yes, I see. It all seems relatively straightforward.
Excuse me, but that testimony does raise one rather crucial point, I think. Mr. Natsume claims his tea to have been harmless. Presumably, though. The teacups have been examined for traces of the poison, haven't they?
Why didn't I think of that? That's why she's our judicial assistant. Well, as it happens, no. We haven't been able to. Did I hear you correctly, Inspector? Scotland Yard has failed to examine the suspect's substance.
How could you have overlooked something so important? Isn't that the first thing you should have done? I call for acquittal immediately. These guys haven't done their job. Seriously, let's get this over and done with.
My learned Nipponese friend is falsely incensed. The inspector said Scotland Yard was unable to examine the tea, not that it was overlooked.
Unable? Why? Because of their incompetence?
It's simple enough. There was none left. Not a drop. Someone must have been very thirsty indeed.
With current scientific techniques, it's not possible to test for poison under such circumstances.
We only need a drop, but that one drop does actually have to exist, funnily enough.
What about the ring left in the cup? Nothing from there?
The lack of examination notwithstanding, it appears nothing other than the tea passed the victim's lips on the night in question.
How do you know?
I suppose he testified. I see, thank you. The matter is clear. Cast your eyes over the jury, my learned friend.
What?
You can see it in their faces, I'm sure. The recognition of the accused's guilt. Your client's fate is all but sealed. In mere moments from now, you will lose, and your compatriot will be damned for all eternity.
He's right. I can feel all 6 of the jurors looking daggers at me. I just realized juror number 4 is different because juror number 4 was Mrs. Garadib, who's in prison now. Okay, but I can't let them beat me down. I won't.
Counsel for the defense, proceed with your cross-examination.
Yes, my lord. Okay, I don't know where to begin on this. We'll just have to press. The catastrophic night. Alright. It was around 9 o'clock that evening when I visited my neighbor, took some tea with me as a gift.
Hold it!
Let's find out more about this. Were you and your neighbor good friends there?
Oh, no! We weren't friends. Not at all. Not at all. Never, ever.
Well, that's not good then. A simple no would have sufficed. Then, why did you decide to pay him a visit?
Mr. Shamspeare fancies himself as having great literary knowledge. As a fellow scholar of English literature, we find much to talk about together.
Come now, no Nipponese could understand the finer points of English literature.
And on the night in question, that was the topic of conversation as well, I presume.
It was the day of my last trial, when I was acquitted. I just arrived back at my lodgings. When I ran into Mr. Shamspeare outside on the street, that was around 6 o'clock. We exchanged 1 or 2 pleasantries, but it soon turned into a heated discussion. He was on his way out at the time, though, so I promised to visit his room that evening at 9 to continue our debate. But did I have ill intentions? No! Not one, not two, not any! Not at all! Never, ever!
A simple no would have sufficed, I feel.
Then tell the court what did happen when you visited the victim's room.
Well, we had a heated literary debate over a nice hot drink, after which I went back to my room at around 11.
Hold it!
A literary debate about Shakespeare's works, I think you said, didn't you?
Shakespeare? Oh, very worthy topic of conversation, I must say. I was around when he was alive. 400 years ago.
Oh, yes, my lord. Romeo and Juliet. Who was stronger? It was profoundly pleasurable parley.
Romeo and Juliet.
Who was stronger?
I know I'm going to regret asking this, but how did the debate go? Who won?
Well, we both agreed that we would reach a conclusion more quickly with a reenactment. So we battled it out. In a Greco-Roman style, naturally.
What?
Mr. Shamspeare had all sorts of costumes in his room for such a contest.
So when you say a reenactment, you mean you were actually in costume?
He is Romeo, I is Juliet, and after a vigorous, wild tussle, I as Juliet came out on top. A victory I'll cherish forever.
Okay. And it wasn't enough to just beat him as Juliet, you also had to poison him to death? I dare not imagine the terrible scene of carnage. The fact remains that it was you who prepared the tea and took it to the victim, correct? This whole wrestling match is a farce, a distraction, a charade.
I boiled the water in my room and made a pot to take with me. I'd heard that he was too poor to have tea himself, you see.
It's true. There was no sign of any tea leaves in the man's room.
I wanted to do something nice, to be friendly. So why is everyone looking at me with such suspicion? My tea was harmless, of course it was.
And do you have any basis for that statement, witness?
I fucking made tea! What do you expect? Of course it's gonna be harmless.
You mean, do you have any basis for the fact that his tea was harmless?
Oh, my tea was completely harmless. He couldn't have locked the door behind me otherwise, could he?
Right.
Hold it!
Yes, there was not a drop of tea left in the victim's room anywhere, was there? That's correct. Anyone would think the fellow had never had a pot of tea before. He must have licked it dry. Although that's not the case, is it? Which is a pity, because one drop is all we would have needed to analyze it for poison. And you say that you returned home to your room at 11 o'clock, Mr. Natsume.
Yes, definitely. By heaven and earth, I swear it.
The landlord was able to verify that as it happens. He confirmed that the defendant went back to his room at 11 that night. And how was the landlord able to attest to this? He, said it was the lamps, I believe. I believe he thought they were poltergeists acting. The lamps, Inspector? He said the gas talks. When tenants return to their rooms and start using gas, the lamps in other parts of the house flicker.
Yes, Mr. Garadeb seems to pay a lot of attention to the comings and goings of his tenants.
There's only one key to Mr. Shamspeare's room. I know that for certain. So he must have locked the door himself from inside his room.
The victim has confirmed that to be the case, yes.
So I'm right. My tea was harmless, completely harmless. If you take poison, you die. Everyone knows that.
It's not that simple, I'm afraid. It wasn't an experimental poison like in Japan 6 months from now.
Oh, what do you mean?
Strychnine takes some time to have an effect on the body. People don't kill over immediately after taking it.
Hold it!
And they also don't seem to recover immediately either. How long does it take for symptoms to appear then? According to the coroner I was speaking to at the yard, about 30 minutes after the poison's consumed. Then the victim suffers violent convulsions, cramping and stiffness, and eventually dies from asphyxiation. So there's a 30-minute interval between when the poison is ingested and the onset of symptoms. There seem to be a lot of different types of poison in the world, that's for sure. Yep, and that's why there's so many different types of antidotes. It's not clear-cut to cure poison. You need to know exactly what type of poison it is to do so.
Oh dear. Death by poisoning again. It's always so awful.
30 minutes is a long time. Certainly long enough for the victim to have locked the door behind the accused after he left. Can't deny that. And it further degrades Soseki-san's alibi. I have the medical report from the doctor who examined the victim here, my lord. It spells it out, really. The accused is the only person who could have done it. Very well, the court will add this report to the court record as evidence. Perfect. Victim's medical report has been entered into the court record. A report issued by Scotland Yard's medical officer. It obviously mentions the poison, as well as other details gleaned during the police investigation.
Oh yes, I see it here. Delayed onset of symptoms.
Okay, well let's take a proper look at it, shall we? Victim, William Shamspeare, 31, cause of coma, ingestion of a small quantity of strychnine. The toxic effects present 30 minutes after ingestion. High likelihood of the substance having been mixed with the tea the victim was drinking, but no sample could be obtained for testing. Investigative conclusions, the poisoning incident occurred at around 1:30 a.m. on 21st February, assessed from the victim's pocket watch. that appears to have broken when the man collapsed after the delayed onset of symptoms. No container for the poison was found at the scene. 1:30 a.m. That's a bit late. He wasn't there that late, was he? I thought he was in bed by 11. Maybe we needed to press to get this and we can go back. Great. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guests left. The argument still stands. You went back to your room around 11. I want to present the medical report here now. Is this right? This is not a contradiction. But let's just do it.
Objection!
Okay, there we go. Phew. Mr. Natsume, you say it was 11 p.m. when you left to return to your room, correct?
Yes.
And Inspector Gregson, can we rely on the information in the medical report unconditionally? Of course we can. There's no problem with that report, Sunshine. Perfect. Actually, I think there's a very big problem. Maybe not with the report. Because there's a chronological inconsistency between it and the defendant's testimony. Chrono what? What are you on about? Here, how do you know that word? You're from Japan. According to this report, the victim must have consumed the poison at around 1:30 in the morning. And yet, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, left the victim's room at 11. Yes, that's right. There's more than 2 hours of missing time there. Then again, maybe there's proof in the fact that there's the ring left by the tea in his cup. He probably left it for a bit and then drank it again around 1 a.m. That's probably what the prosecution's going to say. In other words, if there was poison in the tea that Mr. Natsume brought to the victim's room, how could the victim have fallen ill to it 2.5 hours after the defendant left?
Oh!
Synchronized panic. The defense's argument is entirely reasonable. How do you respond, Lord Van Zieks? I don't give a shit. Here's his goblet. Take your time. We're here all day. Pray forgive the discourtesy if my mind has wandered. I was considering what cuisine would best complement the contents of my hallowed chalice this luncheon. Will be done by then. An unforgettable luncheon. How could it have happened, you ask? I do hate to shatter illusions, but my Nipponese friend appears to be chasing a phantom idea. A phantom? What? This isn't Dual Destinies? Is it so hard to imagine that the victim drank his tea after the accused had left? Told you. For example, at the time stated in the medical report. Yes, at around 1:30.
Objection!
Mr. Natsume brought the tea with him to drink together with his neighbor. Hang on, let me just review something real quick. Back to the medical report. Poisoning incident occurred... Okay. So I'm guessing that the pocket watch says 2 a.m. And they're saying the poisoning incident occurred at 1:30 a.m. because we've just established you don't keel over immediately when you get poisoned, right? Okay. Gotcha. And in Japan, there is a well-known saying. Drink tea while it's hot. I live up to this principle every day. I got my tea down.
Objection!
And in my country, there's an even more apt saying. There is nothing more refreshing than cold tea. The point is, if there was such a long gap, there may be other ways to explain how the victim came to be poisoned. Other possibilities. What sort of possibilities, Counsel? He ate the syrup? Get back to me on that one. Well, for example, the man could have had another visitor. Another visitor. That's a very bold assertion, my learned friend, from someone who has nothing to substantiate it. Yeah, well, your mom. Or the victim could have taken the poison of his own volition. You suggest this may have been a suicide, Counsel?
Objection!
A failed one. Mr. Shamspeare has categorically denied suicide. The idea can and must be discounted.
Objection!
Yeah, well... Oh no, we're back to weak slaps. But he could be lying. Why would he be lying? He's just like, I can't believe this guy's grasping at straws. Is something wrong, Lord Van Zieks? I was listening to the sound of the carriage pulling up outside the courtroom. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Carriage? What carriage? It would seem that the key player in this case has just arrived. Mr. Shamspeare himself. Well? Out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow. There he is.
A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Well, hello there. Who, sir, are you? You didn't look at the photographic print very well, Your Honor.
William Shamspeare, my lords. Alas, 'twas I, undone by these bitter events. I am the victim.
What's he doing here? Oh god, now he's on the witness stand too. The prosecution seeks to call this gentleman to the stand, although he's already done so of his own volition. With his testimony, my learned friend's futile resistance will be utterly crushed. Yeah, I'm already crushed. You're calling him as a witness? I mean, he's a perfectly valid witness. It was his own attempted murder. Very well, counsel, I grant your request with interest. I'm curious to discover what the court shall hear from the victim himself.
Happy am I, Shamspeare, to regale thee with my tale of woe, my lord. But I still have my own tale to tell, my own tale of worse woe. I can regale the court with the tale of my perfect innocence, in perfect English.
That will do, Mr. Natsume. Let the court now hear from the victim. Okay, what has he got to say for us? And this guy, too. Funny you make an appearance. Alright, so that's Mr. Shamspeare. But who's that other man beside him? When did you arrive? And who called you up there?
Yes, I feel sure that we've caught a glimpse of that man before.
State your names and occupations for the court, please, witnesses.
A writer of words so sweet they do scent the breeze, an inventor of ideas so profound they compose the earth. The unrivaled poet, the unmatched scribe, William Shakespeare. Were the great bard to be recalled to life anew? Lo, what a magnificent man! Good fellows, I am he who ponders such a miracle, William Shamspeare.
Oh, name's Meter Man. I drawn be Meter Man. I work for the Altamont Gas Company East End branch office.
Ah, I remember now. It was yesterday, on Briar Road.
Oh yes, she's right, it's him. He's a pretty unforgettable looking guy. Oh, what's this? Was he after the soap? What's that man doing over there? It looks like he's trying to see into Soseki-san's lodgings.
Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo?
Excuse me, can we have a word? Oh. Then he took off. Well, yes, we spotted him outside Mr. Garridib's house that morning. And he's a gas company employee? What does that have to do with this case? So, Mr. William Shamspeare, you are the victim in this miserable affair, correct?
Oh heaven, oh hell, do you command me to remember? That sweet poison that didst cross me and cross mine innocent lips.
I subpoenaed him for the trial, with his doctor's permission, naturally. Hearing the testimony of the aggrieved will remove any room for doubt from the jurors' minds, I'm sure. We haven't heard much from the jurors so far.
Behold, you have only to rearrange the letters of my name to see that me is a seraph, an angel indeed. Thus be I noble of mind, sweet of nature, and verily honest of heart, as all heavenly angels be.
Because there isn't a less contrived meaning in your name. No, not at all.
The jurors seem to be very moved by this man, I'm afraid.
Oh god! Theater! They're actually taking a seraph anagram idea seriously? Holy shit, they all look enamored except for juror number 5.
Thank you, witnesses, for your illuminating introductions.
But my lord, what's the man next to Mr. Shamspear doing here? The gas man, I mean. Is he here to interpret the talking gas? What, me? Well, no. Allow me to enlighten my learned friend. You recall, I presume, your earlier impertinence, when you suggested that the victim had another visitor to his room on the night in question. And moreover, that the victim is a compulsive liar.
What? No. No, I didn't quite say that. You're putting words in my mouth there, Van Zieks, please. There's no need for that. I say plenty of dumb things. You don't need to add to it.
This young chin-stroker is here to controvert your wild claims conclusively. Is that not so, Mr. Meterman? Hang on, no. I'm just here. I'm just here for the spectacle.
I hereby call for your formal testimonies. You will tell the court as lucidly as possible what happened on the night in question. One may smile and be a villain. Yes, it doth pain me, but let the truth be spoken. The truth of that wintry night of my discontent.
Okay. Most random witness award belongs to Mr. Meterman. The wintry night of my discontent.
The snow lay about, my neighbour did cometh in the evening bearing a gift of tea. But marry, bitter was his drink, and when he left, I did fall prostrate on my table. 'Twas the tea alone that did pass my lips that late hour, naught else.
I was outside this bloke's window in the freezing cold all night, keeping an eye on his room. No one else visited his room but that short little round-backed Eastern fella. Okay. Interesting. Wait, what did you say? You were keeping an eye on Mr. Shamspear's room all night? That's right. Of course, the bloke's window is all but blocked up, isn't it? But there's a little gap in the bricks where you can see into the room. So I spent the night trying to keep my teeth from chattering as I peered in through that.
The question is, sir, why?
Well now, that's because he's on my list.
What a piece of work is a man! Wherefore wouldst thou not stare in wonderment?
What are you talking about? Speak English.
I am speaking English. This is English literature. This buzzing busybody hath not part in this play. I pray thee, pay him no heed. Make no more ado about his tedious words.
Seriously, what's up with you two? I feel like you're in cahoots together, from what I remember of your brief cameo in the first game. What'd you say about me? Calm yourself. This court is concerned with what happened on the night in question. Nothing more.
Indeed, that is so.
And, as the testimony we have just heard clearly reveals, there was no one other than the accused present at the time who could have carried out this crime. Ugh. Uh-oh. They're murmuring amongst each other.
Well, I believe this may be the final testimony of the trial.
No way.
Now, counsel, the defense may proceed with the cross-examination.
Maybe the final one before the summation examination has to kick in.
Yes, my lord.
Where do we even begin with this? The wintry night of my discontent.